Hi again, Gregg Bell of the News Tribune here in Charlotte, North Carolina. These Seahawks always play the music loud and the locker room is pretty raucous after victories, but after today's here at Bank of America Stadium, it was as off the hook as I've heard a Seahawk locker room in a long time. I mean, I couldn't hear Doug Baldwin. I was standing maybe a foot and a half away from him, and it told me how important they thought this win was, and it was. Beating the Panthers 30-27, coming from behind to do it in the fourth quarter, scoring on the last play of the game on Sebastian Janikowski's field goal means the Seahawks now have the head-to-head tiebreaker on a team they are probably going to be vying for one of the final playoff spots in the NFC with. Carolina and Seattle now both 6-5. The Seahawks also play Minnesota, who's a half game ahead of them as I speak, before the Vikings host the Green Bay Packers tonight. And they get the Vikings in Seattle in 2 weeks. They host San Francisco, which is 2-9, on Sunday, and 4 of their last 5 are at home. The Seahawks' only road game in that span, December 16th, at the 2-9 49ers. So the Seahawks can win their way into the postseason after being 4-5 and looking in dire straits just 2 weeks ago. That's the result of these 2 comeback wins at home over the Packers 10 days ago, and then today over Carolina. I'm not sure where the criticism of Russell Wilson comes from for anything, but he did it again today in the fourth quarter. 11 of 15 in the final quarter, 144 of his 339 yards passing, ended up with 2 touchdowns. The one score to David Moore on 4th and 3 shows how much trust he has in the second-year wide receiver, the 7th-round draft pick. 4th and 3 at the Carolina 35-yard line, 3:33 left. The Seahawks down 27-20. Brian Schottenheimer, another guy who gets criticized around Seattle, with the game on the line, dials up the play to target Corn Eldred, the backup cornerback for Carolina, who was only playing because Dante Jackson, their rookie starter, got hurt on the very first play of the game. Schottenheimer sends David Moore down the left sideline, the opposite end zone here, to the goal line. Wilson looked right, but to me was going to Moore the entire time because Eldred was on him. Throws a ball that Moore can get with Eldred not even turning around. Eldred was grabbing Moore's shoulder, his arm. The only thing he didn't grab was David Moore's left arm. Moore used that to cradle the ball. It was perfectly placed into his chest for the touchdown that tied the game at 27 on 4th down. Then you saw what happened after that. Graham Gano misses a 52-yard field goal that the Seahawks were celebrating as soon as the ball hit, or Gano's foot hit the ball. They were jumping up and down knowing it was wide. Tyler Lockett said after the game, my thought was then, let's go win the game. They'd just given the Seahawks the ball at their own 42-yard line with 1:40 left, no timeouts, plenty of time for Wilson to do what he did. He extended the play, and the Seahawks offensive line gave him time to look at 4 receivers and look back to the right on 3rd down, found Tyler Lockett on an improv route. Lockett stopped. Defensive back stopped with him. He ran behind Captain Mutterland down the right side. Wilson threw back to the right, 43-yard gain to the Carolina 11-yard line, and that was it. The Seahawks just took 2 kneels and a spike, and then Janikowski hits the 31-yard field goal at the end to win it. The Seahawks trailed 20-17 entering the fourth quarter. They trailed 27-20, and they still win 30-27. You saw Chris Carson's remarkable flip, somersault, landing on 2 feet and continuing to run, 15-yard run. The Seahawks scored 20 points after that play. It came right after Bradley McDougald's interception in the end zone. McDougald had the biggest defensive play of the game. That interception, the first turnover by the Seahawks defense produced in 4 games, ending the driest streak in team history. Carolina was out to go into a 20-10 lead. The Seahawks couldn't stop Newton running or passing. They couldn't stop Christian McCaffrey, who was incredible today, with 227 total yards rushing and receiving. Yet Bradley McDougald got the 1 turnover they needed. And right now, this defense, the Seahawks are winning in spite of it, and the defense has to get turnovers in order to keep themselves in the game. They got the only one of the game today, and it kept the Seahawks in the game. Instead of 20-10, it remained 13-10. Carson does his flip. His mom texted him after the game and said, don't do that ever again. You give me, quote, a heart attack doing that. That sparked the drive to the touchdown. Russell Wilson in this end zone right here to Tyler Lockett. Seahawks had their first lead of the game. They end up scoring 20 points after that. and again win despite giving up 476 yards of offense. This team has confidence that if their defense can get a play and keep them in the game, their offense is going to do something. And it took a while today, but the running game did just enough to set up the play action passes. I asked Pete Carroll after the game, the runs, how important is it just to stay with them? Not necessarily that they were gaining yards. Carson just ended up with 55 yards on 16 carries, and Carroll said it's that we stay with it. It's that it sets up the play action passes, that creates plays late in the games. We have to stay with it, and he credited Brad Schottenheimer for doing that as well. All adds up to an absolutely mammoth victory for Seattle, who heads home now with the playoff fate, as I said, completely in its hands. Catch all my coverage at thenewstribune.com and, as always, on Twitter at GBellSeattle. Thanks for watching.